In the heart of Beijing's Forbidden City, behind vermilion walls and golden roofs, a woman ruled China for nearly half a century. Empress Dowager Cixi, born Yehanara Xingzhen in 1835, would become one of history's most controversial figures. Her decisions during China's most vulnerable period still spark debate among historians today. Cixi entered the imperial palace as a low-ranking concubine to Emperor Xianfeng at age 16. Through intelligence, ambition, and bearing the emperor's only surviving son, she secured her position. When Xianfeng died in 1861, Cixi orchestrated a palace coup that made her regent for her 5-year-old son. This began her 47-year reign behind the throne, first as co-regent with Empress Dowager Cixi. Cixi quickly demonstrated political acumen, balancing conservative Manchu elites with progressive Han officials. Her early reign coincided with the self-strengthening movement, China's first modernization attempt. The self-strengthening movement aimed to adopt Western military technology while preserving Chinese values. Under Cixi's approval, China built modern arsenals, shipyards, and telegraph lines. But this Chinese learning as essence, Western learning for practical use approach had fundamental limitations. Cixi supported these reforms, but refused deeper political changes. When her son, Emperor Tongzhi, came of age in 1873, she reluctantly gave up formal power. But Tongzhi's sudden death in 1875 allowed Cixi to place her 4-year-old nephew on the throne, resuming her regency. This manipulation of succession revealed Cixi's priority, maintaining her power above all else. She bypassed older, more qualified candidates to install the child Emperor Guangxu, ensuring she could continue ruling behind the throne. This pattern would repeat throughout her reign. The 1880s saw increased foreign pressure on China. France seized Vietnam, Britain took Burma, and Japan eyed Korea. Cixi responded by building the modern Beiyang fleet, one of Asia's strongest navies, but corruption and mismanagement undermined these efforts. In 1889, Cixi formally retired when Guangxu turned 18, but maintained influence through loyal officials. She spent enormous sums rebuilding the Summer Palace, including a marble boat that became symbolic of wasted resources. Critics argued this money should have strengthened the navy. The turning point came in 1894 with the First Sino-Japanese War. China's modernized fleet suffered catastrophic defeat against Japan. The Treaty of Shimonoseki humiliated China, revealing the failure of superficial modernization without political reform. This defeat sparked the 100 Days Reform in 1898. Emperor Guangxu, now 27, launched radical changes: modern education, industrial development, and military reorganization. But these threatened conservative interests, including Cixi's power base. Cixi responded with a coup that ended the reforms after just 103 days. She placed Guangxu under house arrest and executed reform leaders. This decisive action preserved her power, but crushed China's best chance for comprehensive modernization from within. Historians debate Cixi's motives. Was she protecting traditional values, preserving Manchu rule, or simply maintaining personal power? Her actions certainly delayed political modernization, keeping China an absolute monarchy while neighbors like Japan transformed. The Boxer Rebellion of 1900 became Cixi's greatest miscalculation. Anti-foreign Boxers received her tacit support, leading to attacks on foreigners and Chinese Christians. When 8 foreign powers invaded to protect their interests, Cixi initially encouraged resistance. As foreign troops approached Beijing, Cixi fled disguised as a peasant, abandoning the capital. The resulting Boxer Protocol imposed crushing reparations and foreign troops in China. This humiliation marked China's lowest point under Cixi's rule. Surprisingly, after this disaster, Cixi launched the new policies in 1901, more comprehensive than the reforms she crushed. These included abolishing the imperial examination system, creating modern ministries, and planning constitutional government. Was this genuine change or survival strategy? Cixi's final years saw continued reform while maintaining absolute control. She even considered transforming China into a constitutional monarchy. But these late reforms couldn't undo decades of delayed modernization or restore Qing legitimacy. When Cixi died in 1908, she arranged one final succession manipulation. She appointed the 2-year-old Puyi as emperor, with her loyalist as regent. The child emperor would become China's last, as revolution erupted just 3 years later. Cixi's legacy divides historians. Traditional views paint her as conservative villain who delayed modernization. Revisionists note she ruled during impossible times, foreign aggression, domestic rebellion, and a collapsing dynasty. Some argue she preserved China's sovereignty when complete colonization was possible. Her gender adds complexity. As a woman in a patriarchal system, she used manipulation because direct rule was impossible. She navigated court politics with skill, outmaneuvering male rivals for decades. But did this survival instinct override national interest? Cixi's modernization approach was selective. She embraced technology, telegrams, railways, photography, but resisted political change that threatened imperial power. This contradiction defined her reign, wanting a strong, modern China, but only under absolute monarchy. Compare China's path with Japan's Meiji Restoration. Both faced Western pressure in the 1850s. Japan transformed completely in 40 years. China, under Cixi, made partial changes over 50 years. The difference in outcomes, Japan became a power, China was carved up, is stark. Yet blaming Cixi alone oversimplifies China's challenges. The Qing dynasty faced internal decay, population pressure, and massive rebellions like the Taiping. Foreign powers demanded unequal treaties. Any ruler would have struggled with these multiple crises. Cixi's greatest failure may be timing. She crushed the 1898 reforms when China still had autonomy. By 1901, after the Boxer disaster, reforms were too little, too late. The revolutionary momentum had grown beyond what reforms could satisfy. Her personal extravagance also damaged her legacy. While millions starved, she spent lavishly on palaces and celebrations. The marble boat at the Summer Palace became symbolic of misplaced priorities during national crisis. Modern reassessments consider Cixi's constraints. As a Manchu ruler, she balanced ethnic tensions. As a woman, she faced constant challenges to her authority. As regent, she mediated between conservatives and reformers. Perhaps she was navigating impossible contradictions. Recent scholarship examines her diplomatic skills. She played foreign powers against each other, preventing any single nation from dominating China. In an era of colonial conquest, she preserved Qing's sovereignty, however weakened, through careful negotiation. Cixi's cultural impact endures. She patronized Peking opera, promoted certain art forms, and left behind a rich material legacy. Her Summer Palace, though controversial for its cost, remains a UNESCO World Heritage Site showcasing Qing aesthetics. The woman who delayed modernization narrative deserves nuance. Yes, she resisted political reform that threatened her power, but she also approved technological modernization and late-life political changes. Her reign saw both progress and regression. Consider this: without Cixi, would China have modernized faster? Possibly. But also consider, without her, might China have collapsed into complete foreign control during the scramble for concessions? Her firm hand maintained some unity during fragmentation threats. Cixi's story reflects China's painful transition from empire to nation-state. She ruled the twilight of a 2,000-year imperial system. Her attempts to preserve that system while adapting to modernity ultimately failed, but the attempt itself is historically significant. Today, historians continue re-evaluating Cixi. New documents, including her own writings, reveal a more complex figure. She wasn't simply conservative or progressive, but a pragmatic ruler making difficult choices during China's most vulnerable century. Her legacy lives in debates about development paths. How much tradition should be preserved during modernization? How fast should political change follow technological change? Cixi's China chose gradual change, with mixed results that still inform development debates today. Ultimately, Empress Dowager Cixi embodies history's complexity. She delayed political modernization but approved technological progress. She preserved Qing rule but weakened China internationally. She was both product and shaper of her turbulent times. As we examine her 47-year reign, we see not just one woman's choices, but China's struggle with modernity itself. The question isn't simply whether Cixi delayed modernization, but what kind of modernization was possible for late imperial China, given its immense challenges. Cixi's story reminds us that historical figures operate within constraints. Her decisions, flawed, contradictory, sometimes disastrous, emerged from specific circumstances. Understanding those circumstances helps us move beyond simple blame to nuanced historical understanding. The woman behind the dragon throne left a complicated legacy. She wasn't China's savior nor its sole destroyer, but a pivotal figure during its most humiliating century. Her reign asks us to consider, in times of crisis, how do leaders balance preservation with necessary change?